Food bloggers, hi, how are you today? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Eat Blog Talk podcast. This is the place for food bloggers to get information and inspiration to accelerate your blog's growth and ultimately help you to achieve your freedom, whether that's financial, personal, or professional. I'm Megan Porta. I have been a food blogger for 13 years, so I understand how isolating food blogging can be. I'm on a mission to motivate, inspire, and most importantly, let each and every food blogger, including you, know that you are heard and supported. Hey food bloggers, check out our new SEO Supercut, a bonus 15-minute episode capturing highlights from SEO episodes that we have recorded recently. Go to eatblogtalk.com/SEO Supercut to get access today. How does going from 750 page views a month to over 100,000 page views a month sound? If that sounds good, please tune into this episode. Allie Hagerty from Seasoned and Salted talks about her strategy that made this happen. Allie's story is super inspiring. She is super inspiring. She has such a great positive outlook on life and on her blogging journey, which in my opinion helps tremendously. But she does talk through some tangible things that you can do in order to gain a lot of traction for your blog as well. First and foremost, she strongly believes in putting together content clusters based on recipes and ingredients and food that you know and love and are so passionate about. Start there, create some really high value, helpful content that your users just can't refuse. She touches on other things such as the importance of interlinking, how she uses RankIQ to optimize all of her content, making sure you keep a close eye on your site structure and those technical details, ensure you have a strong title for each post, create a bunch of evergreen content, be patient, know that food blogging is a long game and you aren't going to get traction for every post you write overnight. Consistency, Allie believes, is one of the main reasons she gained so much traction so quickly. This episode was one of my favorites I've recorded in a while. It's so inspiring. I just know you're going to love it. It is episode sponsored by RankIQ. Are you really wanting to be a part of one of the Eat Blog Talk mastermind groups, but you're just not in the place to make the investment right now? The Eat Blog Talk accountability group might be the perfect fit for you. For just $34 a month, you'll get access to weekly accountability check-ins, a private Slack channel, live productivity sessions, and monthly Zoom calls with fellow bloggers and me, Megan Porta. Achieve your big blogging goals surrounded by supportive, like-minded creators who truly understand your journey. The Eat Blog Talk accountability group is here to help you stay focused and motivated as you build your awesome brand. Head to eatblogtalk.com/focus today to claim your spot. Allie Hagerty has been food blogging since 2020, although she took a few years off. After being laid off from her full-time job as a new mom of a 4-week-old, Allie decided to put all her energy back into reviving her old crusty food blog. She started working on her new niche, New England and Mediterranean dishes, think fresh, minimalistic ingredients made delicious, in November of 2023. Allie had maybe 400 sessions monthly. Today, in September 2024, she has over 100,000 page views, and she is on MediaVine. Allie hunkered down, worked hard, and eliminated distractions such as Instagram. She is proof that SEO is not dead. Hello, Allie. Welcome to the podcast. Now you're actually a guest versus a listener. How are you today?
Yes, I'm good. Thanks, Megan. How are you today? I'm so excited to be here.
I'm good, and I'm super excited for you to be here as well and to connect with you. I love this topic. We're going to talk about the power of content clusters. I think this is super relevant and will be really refreshing and inspiring for food bloggers right now. But before we get into that, do you have a fun fact to share with us?
I do. So Julia Child held me as a baby.
What?
My dad is a fishmonger here in the Boston area, a very prominent one. He's had very famous clients like Yo-Yo Ma, some athletes and singers, performers, but his most famous one and his biggest regular was Julia Child. She bought all of her seafood exclusively from my father when she lived in Cambridge, all of her lobsters. And one day my mom came out of the walk-in and was like, Julia, I have this new beautiful bag of shrimp. And she had me in the other hand. And Julia said, forget the shrimp, give me the child. And she, grabbed me from my mother. And so I always joke, I'm like, I feel like some of her wisdom and passion, most of your passion kind of sprinkled off onto me.
Oh my gosh, that is the coolest story.
Yeah, I always joke, I'm like, Mom, if only that were the time where like we had flip phones with cameras, like that would have been a great photo.
Yes. The best moment ever. But oh, how cool. Yeah, some of her passion probably got infused into you.
Definitely.
I love that. I actually got goosebumps as you were telling that story. So cool. Oh, amazing. Yeah, too bad you didn't have that captured, but memory for your mom, right? That
exactly. Yeah.
Super, super cool. Okay. Well, with that in mind, tell us a little bit about the history of your blog.
Yeah, so my blog was really born during 2020 when we were spending more time at home. I've always been a really passionate cook, but I've always kind of made stuff up on the fly. I was never really good at following recipes. And so my husband would ask me all the time, like, oh, that was amazing, that pasta dish you made last week. Can you make it again? And family members would ask the same. And the answer was always, I can't. I didn't record what I was making. I just was so excited in the kitchen. And still to this day, recipe creation is my favorite part. And so I had more time at home and I finally said, you know what? I'm going to create an Instagram. And my best friend said to me at the time, she's like, Instagram, go big or go home, make a website. And I said, oh, okay. So I started in 2020 with a Squarespace website and would take all my photos on my phone under fluorescent lights in my kitchen. And, would just, even back then though, I loved sharing the tips, like, and really just educating people and kind of taking these elevated recipes and making it approachable for an at-home cook. So I started that in 2020. And then if you fast forward, so during this time, I was working full time. We got 2 dogs during the time of COVID. Fast forward, my wedding was postponed twice and I got a new full-time job. So just working on my blog in Squarespace and kind of just, it was a hobby. In 2022, I stopped working on the blog, probably in January. I had a brand new job. I was really focused on it and I just felt really burnt out from a full-time job that I had just left and poured my heart into. And just, I was exhausted. I didn't touch my blog from January 2022 until probably November of 2023 after I had my daughter and was laid off. And so over like about a year and a half went by where I didn't even log into WordPress. And it was really being laid off in August of 2023 when I was 4 weeks postpartum with my first child that I realized I need to do something for myself and I want to make the blog profitable and I want to make it more than just a hobby.
Oh, I love that story. Yeah, sometimes we just need life can cause us to stop blogging, but then
so true.
Life events can cause us to want to restart. How did you feel when you started back in? Was it just a foreign world or did it feel pretty natural?
Really overwhelming. I think I'd always been really fortunate that I love my full-time role as a human resources director, and I'm able to use the income that I make there to invest in my blog. And so I thought to myself, look, I'm laid off, but I do have this severance. How can I use this to invest in myself and the business? So I did a few different things. I took some courses. I met with some mentors that were really great and started to learn about this concept of content buckets or clusters. Something that I know a lot about, being my father's daughter, is seafood. I'm very confident, especially cooking with lobster. And so I love lobster. I live in New England. It's part of my blood. And so that's where I started. I said, you know what, Allie, just focusing on recipes that you know a lot about. So I just started there. And then, I worked with IMAR Creative to redo my website, optimize. It really just started kind of small.
Yeah, I love that you started with just what you knew and what you loved
Yeah.
a lot. Because I think this concept of working on your content clusters is kind of popular. Like, it's really compelling too, because we kind of want that to lay the path before us. Like, I don't want to have to think every time I sit down about what I'm going to write about. So, having a cluster to focus on is really just kind of relieving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that would be too. I mean, look, it's so funny. I think something that we hear all the time as bloggers is, "Oh, the market's so saturated." Like that's not true. I think that especially in 2024 and beyond, you know, people go to Google, right? They for with something in mind that they're looking for, and it really depends on who's being the most helpful to the reader, who's going to get those first spots. And so I think that there's room for everyone, especially when you're niching down, especially when you're focusing on what you're passionate and know that the most about. Someone's going to go to, I have a friend and she has just pivoted her niche. She's focusing on all like party bites, small desserts, like mini desserts. I love that. I mean,
Oh, that's a good
I
idea.
would go to her. I would go to her for something like that if I'm hosting a cocktail party versus my friend who does, larger cakes, right? Like I'll go to her if I'm baking my daughter's birthday cake. And so I think that we're really in this time where people are looking to trust someone. And I think just focusing on your niche really helps establish that trust with readers.
I think you nailed it. I think that's so true. Because when you type something really specific into Google, you'll see there are like 4 million, 9,000 million gajillions search it or, like results for this. But how many of those are actually helpful? Probably not many. So you have to consider that as well.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So you started with lobster because that was something you just really knew.
Yes.
And then how far into lobster did you go? Like, what did you think through with this lobster content cluster?
Yeah, so the first two recipes that really made a big difference for me were my lobster cake. So it's like a crab cake, but with lobster, and then butter poached lobster. And at the time, I'll be honest, lobster cakes, there weren't a lot of recipes out there. But for butter poached lobster, you bet. I mean, the competition was fierce, but I told myself, like, just focus, narrow in, don't focus. And this is something I still do to this day, Megan, where I never once now any recipe I post or I'm interested in, I never even look at who occupies the first few spots. Like
Yeah.
I just don't focus on it. If it's in my niche, if it's something I know I can make really well and something that I think that I can offer a unique take on, I just do it without even thinking. And so I did those recipes and then I did like lobster gnocchi and slowly I would start these other recipes. And once I did those three, it really started to kick off. Then I added some other pastas and things. And once I did that, I also using Rank IQ. I mean, that's my number one, like my number
Yes.
one, fighter in my pack is Rank IQ. Once I used Rank IQ, I started to learn how to write helpfully for my
Yeah.
reader. I started to realize the importance of showing different options, showing substitutions, thinking about expert ways to help them to cook with confidence. And so Rank IQ then allowed me to say, okay, I did a few for lobster. What are some other areas? And so like one big content bucket I have is pesto. And that's something I'm continuing with. So by the end of the year, I'll have like 25 different pesto types of recipes. But I think just focusing in, narrowing your focus and not worrying about what other people are doing really allows you to be more productive as well.
Okay, there's so much I want to comment on there. I love your strategy of just not focusing on the competition because even I, as a really OG blogger, can get caught up in that because, like, something that I've ranked for forever, one of the examples is my chili recipe. Oh my gosh, I used to rank number one spot on Google for years. It got me so much traffic. And then competition started swarming in. And of course, I got pushed out. So I've had to really fight for that spot. And I had this thought the other day. I was like, maybe I should just find a low competition keyword for chili. And I was like, no, my chili is the best dang chili recipe. I so strongly believe that. I've made it 1,000,000 times. So I just decided, no, I'm not going to care what the competition is doing with chili because I know that mine is better and I know that I can serve people in that way. So yeah, sometimes you do just have to put on your blinders and not give a crap what other people are creating. I love
It's
that.
so true. I mean, like, I think of espresso martini, right? Such a popular term. Well, mine uses vanilla vodka, and I think it's honestly, it is. It's the best espresso
Oh,
martini in the
yum.
world. Everyone's always told me that. It's amazing. And I just went after it, and I outranked, I don't know if I'm allowed to say who, but like Half Baked Harvest, who
Ooh,
she
nice.
occupies so much of those top rankings. And so I think that's an example. Like, don't worry about your domain authority. Don't worry about
Yeah.
who has those spots. Just go, write passionately, write honestly, and focus on things that you really know. And I do think that you will be rewarded if you're being authentic and showing up that way.
And that will shine through. Your authenticity and
Hmm.
your passion for it definitely shines through. I
Thank
think,
you.
yeah. I mean, I think that there's so much weight there as far as like how your users see you, but also how Google sees you. So yeah, I love
Hmm.
that. And then, okay, I want to ask you about your lobster strategy. So that was the first one that you really dove into. How far did you go with it? How many lobster related recipes and posts did you make?
Yeah, so for that one, I think I have about 10 or 12. I didn't go as deep with that one as possible because I started to want to do a few and then started to do a few other different clusters. But between you and I, like I have probably about 25 other recipes for lobster that I'm waiting to share this year and then next year to continue. I think the biggest thing with your content clusters can be so many things. I think people get really hung up on this, Megan. You know, it can be an ingredient that you want to shine, it can be a type of appetizer or something. And the main point of those content clusters is you're creating organically related posts to each other. So that way you're having an organic, easy way to interlink your different posts with each other that is not forced. And I think that at the end is what people need to think of when they think of content clusters. I think people get really overwhelmed by it, but that's really, in essence, their purpose is to allow you to create those really genuine
Hmm.
links between posts. And that signals to Google, oh my God, there's so much alike in these posts on Seasoned and Salted. She must really be an expert in these areas.
Yeah, I love that kind of way of thinking about it. I know for me, Rank IQ really helped me with this because mentioning the
Yes.
chili years ago, I was like, okay, I know I'm an expert in chili and everything related to it, what you can do with it, what you do with leftovers, blah, blah, blah. So that's where I started. I went to Rank IQ and I literally just typed in chili and all of these ideas came up and I was like, oh my gosh, I could write about that. I know how to store chili. I know what to serve with it. Like all of these things I never would have thought to write about otherwise. Is that kind of how you've
Hmm.
thought through some of your clusters as well?
Yeah, so it's so funny. So I use Rank IQ in two different ways. Like obviously I run reports. So I run my keyword search reports using key search. And then if I deem that as like a really good keyword, then I'll pop it into Rank IQ. And then I have parameters that I kind of go by. And if it kind of checks all my boxes, then I'm like, okay, this is a viable keyword. But then like you, I love to use the keyword library in that way
Yeah.
because here's the thing. You are amazing at making chili. Like, you know everything there is to make chili. You have the world's best chili recipe. Sometimes when we're in that zone of genius, it is hard for us to think the perspective of someone who's never made chili before.
Hmm.
So what I love about Rank IQ is that it kind of clues you in like, oh, someone might not know how to store that chili. Well, that makes sense because chili is traditionally in a big batch. Or how do you make a chili spicier or
Yeah.
toppings for chili? People, again, assume that someone's never had chili before. What are these things that they need to know? So I love that Rank IQ has that because I think that it's really helpful for those H2 headings and just even things to include in your post.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so true. I am
I love
in
it.
I'm in that tool all the time for
Me,
ideas
me
and
too.
all kinds of there's so
Every
much goodness in there.
it's so funny. Everyone asks me, they're like, "Is it worth it?" And I always say, I'm like, I have to be honest. I think it is the most worth it tool
Yeah.
I've ever had. Like,
I would pay
it's
more for
if
it, honestly.
me too, me too. If they increase the price,
Yeah, I'm in.
sure. Yes,
Same.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the same page with that. I always love finding fellow Rank IQ users.
Oh
It's like
no.
we're on the same wavelength with our content. Okay, so I'm just wondering if somebody's listening and they have no idea where to start with clusters, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, so I have a course that I can talk about later where I kind of teach people about how to use clusters. But here's the thing that I would think of. Start with an ingredient, for instance, or think of a type of appetizer. Ready? So I'll give 2 examples, lobster or bruschetta, which is crusty bread with different toppings. Think of something that you love so much, and you can think of 10 different iterations or 10 different linked recipes. Start there. And, whether it's lobster pasta, lobster pie, lobster mac and cheese, like just dive into it, get a notebook out, just write as many things as you can think of. And you'll start to just explode with ideas. And then maybe I have a lobster gnocchi. Well, then you think of gnocchi, and then you think of all these other gnocchi recipes. And then you start to build out this kind of all these different interlinked clusters as well. So I think just go on a nice walk or go sit in a park and take a notebook or go to a coffee shop. Just go somewhere where you can be creative and don't put pressure on yourself, but just start to write ideas down. And that's how you will come up with your content clusters.
I love that. And you could just start with one thing. Like my chili kind of led to so many different things.
Yes.
Like I found chili was a great topping for baked potatoes. And I was like, oh, I know a lot about potatoes, so it will lead you on different paths too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love, someone once gave me really good advice. So I said, I have a great scallop and risotto recipe. And they were like, break it up into 2. Do brown butter scallops and then do the risotto separately, because then you interlink them. And that is kind of break it down for people and then build those ideas together, I think is so important.
Hey, we have spots available for the 2025 mastermind groups, and I want to give you a chance to grab one of them. One of the things that is not talked about a lot are the long-term benefits of being in a group like this one. So instead of saying, what's going to be different in my business in a year, the question should be, what positive things will have happened in my business in 5 years or in 10 years because I joined this group? For more information about these groups and to apply, go to eblogtalk.com/mastermind. Current mastermind member Lucy from Southern Food and Fun talks about the long-term ROI in this clip.
Anybody on the fence, I highly recommend the mastermind. It's expensive, but it's an investment in your business, an investment in yourself. I feel like the return on that investment will be years.
So you recommend really just starting with something you know and love inside and out, and that will come through in your writing.
Yeah, I think too, and I'd say the biggest thing is try to start a few months ahead of when you think people will be looking for that. So we always joke tomato girl summer, people love tomatoes. Well, just start to create 12 different recipes using tomatoes, and you will slowly become an authority on tomatoes or just really anything. I think the biggest thing, if anyone takes anything away from this episode, do not let other people or what they're doing or their successes dictate what you want to write about. Write about what you want to write about and just go all in on that.
Oh, love that. I think we need permission to do that because we can, I don't know, I feel like the quote experts can tell us okay, you need to go look in key search and look at your competition. And if you don't align with their DA, domain authority, then don't even think about it. But I don't necessarily agree with that. If you feel it in your gut, do it.
I have an extremely low DA. I have a 17 DA, and I had 120,000 sessions last month. So DA, I think it doesn't matter as much. I think it's really just about the volume of linked recipes you have and just the quality. I know people don't want to hear it, but you have to write quality blog posts and you have to give them time. I think people are often looking for quick fixes. You gotta give it time and just trust the process. I challenge everyone out there, write 6 posts that are interlinked with the same topic. Give it 2 months. You will see huge traffic. I really believe that.
Just like if you plant a garden, you don't expect everything to come out of the ground in a week, right? You have to let it do its thing. And I think it's the same with blogging. It's just an expectation that I have at this point after doing it so long. Just like, yeah, this might take a year to come up in Google. That's fine. In a year, I'll be really happy. You just have to have that. You just have to be okay with that, the potential of it taking a long time.
Exactly. But once it will stick, like it's really exciting once that comes through. And again, I can't say enough, like just trust it.
Yes.
It'll happen.
Trust the process. Okay. So I want to talk about your progress because you went from like 750 page views to over 100,000 in 8 months. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I think, the most frequently asked questions I get on this are how many posts and what are you using? I will tell people this. Google is not Instagram. There is not a specific algorithm. So if you, like, people always ask how many per week. Well, don't think about posting per week. Think about like just an infinite amount of time or a month. So I post probably 12 recipes a month. Last month I did 15, so it depends. And, I think the biggest thing is high quality content, interlinking. So making sure that every post on your site has at least 5 other, links towards interlinks into it from another blog post. I think that's really important. And then I think as well, I hate to say it again, but rank IQ for me is a really big deal. It really helps. And then I think just focusing on your site structure and just those little back end things, are your images the correct size? Are they optimized? Are you avoiding keyword stuffing? Keyword stuffing will kill you. And I think just, I focus a lot on evergreen content. And I think that's been really helpful too, overall.
All right. That's all such good advice. I think you hit some really good, solid things that food bloggers should think about. As far as using Rank IQ, it sounds like you do use the optimizer, correct?
Yes, yeah. I do. I love that. It is. So I write all of my posts in Rank IQ, and actually in my course that I created, my 100x workflow course, I actually have a video walking people through how I write in Rank IQ, because I think people get really hung up on a list of words that they should use. And it's about doing it organically. And it's about really thinking of okay, these are helpful things to include, but I need to make it happen organically. I shouldn't just be stuffing them. Yeah. But I love that optimizer. And I think too, just focusing on a really strong title. It sounds silly, but my titles used to be just an example was no need for focaccia. Just that.
Yeah.
And that's one of my recipes that I'm updating this month. And now the new recipe is going to be a lot stronger, a lot, more meaty. And so I think just thinking how we can provide more context to the reader quickly with those titles, and then just making sure that you're, really telling them what they need to hear, and that you're not just overly wordy or just, writing to write with purpose.
That's good advice. Also, user intent, which is kind of something you're alluding to, is huge right now. So just making sure that you pick a title that the user is intending to click on, right? So it can't be ambiguous at all anymore.
So true. And I think too, really own your recipe and your zone of genius and your expertise. I was just talking to a friend of mine. She's a vegan blogger, my friend Lauren, and she posted the most incredible looking chocolate chip cookie recipe the other day. And it's dairy-free completely. And I love that. Now, if I also have a chocolate chip cookie recipe, I'm not shouting from the rooftops, oh, you could make this without eggs. No. That's not my focus. And so I think people need to just figure out what their recipe is and really scream that from the rooftops. Don't try to appeal to everyone. Try to narrow who your audience is. And I think that will really help, because the last thing you want is for someone to click into your post and then quickly realize, this is misleading, and click out.
Yeah.
That's how you really lose trust with potential subscribers and readers.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I so agree with that. I've been trying to give extra thought lately to the SEO title in each post. So that title that shows up in the snippet on Google. So instead of just saying, like before I would say, I don't know, world's best chili recipe. Okay, that's great. It is the world's best. But now I could say something like world's best chili dash. I can't even think of like some
No, I know
like
what you mean.
highlighting
Like
something
like with
about
jalapeno or
right.
like taco seasoning. Yeah.
Like make it mild or spicy or
Yes.
great for a large gathering or like some of those
Yep.
things that really make it unique. Or
Totally.
my chili is like not one of those really thick chilies. So I could highlight that. So
Mhm.
something
Ooh.
that
Yeah.
just makes it stand out from the rest right up front before they even click over to your post.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, for mine, what I do is I actually just completely copy and paste and I've done this for all of my posts along the way. Whatever my blog title is my SEO title, and it's worked really, really well.
Oh, I love that. Yep. Okay. So do you attribute your massive growth, congratulations on that, by the way, everyone
Thank
wants
you.
that, to the content clusters, or do you attribute it to kind of a collection of everything that you mentioned?
Yeah, good question. I would say content clusters, but really at the end of the day, what that means is proper interlinking, which again, I go over on my course. But then I would say as well, like consistency. I was really consistent. Like, I had a newborn at home. I was searching for a new job. I was grieving the fact that I lost my job that I loved and cared about while having a newborn, trying to, feed this newborn, trying to sleep, etc., trying to, just so many things. And the one thing I kept consistent was when my daughter went to bed at 7 p.m., I would sit down at my computer and I would write. And I would just write and write and write. And so I think that the biggest thing is just keep up with it. Just act as if every blog post I have written in the last year, I go into it thinking to myself, I'm going to get the number one ranking. I've never once, even to this day, I was just thinking that today, like every post, I act like I'm going to get the number one ranking in my head, and like just have that attitude and just trust it, and don't obsess. Don't keep checking about when, the ranking for it. You will see in Google Analytics in a little bit, and you'll see that traffic. And that is such an exciting feeling. So I think for me, I'm not a patient person, Megan. My husband, if my husband hears this episode, he's going to roll his eyes back. So I'm not patient, but with my blog, I am. And I think that's really, really important for people to hold on to. Like, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep doing it. But be honest with yourself about the amount of time and commitment you're actually giving, and if you're actually putting out your best work.
That's all so great. And I like how it is more a formula. It's not just like, okay, here's the answer. Content clusters are it. It's more just thinking through all of what you're talking about, the high quality content, the niche, the consistency, the patience, seeing it as a long game. Like it all plays together. And these are all really important factors.
Yes, it definitely. I mean, and I think too, again, like I've been so fortunate. I love people, Megan. Like I'm a people person. I'm the head of human resources for, believe it or not, like an adult company in the United States here. And I love people. And so I've been so lucky that through my blog career, I've met some really, really, really good friends. Not everyone is someone that's collaborative, willing to share their knowledge, willing to, but when you find those people, you can learn so much, you can share knowledge. And I think that that's been really helpful too. This can be such a lonely journey. Our spouses, our friends in real life, they don't understand this is a very different career than most. And to be an entrepreneur takes guts, and not everyone. It also takes a lot of persistence. And so finding those people who are in your corner that you love and truly trust, it makes such a big difference, bouncing ideas off of them. And I think that made a really big difference for me in the last year too. I really focused on who is in my corner and who's not in my corner, and who do I not need to associate with. And that made a really big difference too for my headspace.
I would be bold enough to say that prioritizing people actually trumps probably everything else we've talked about.
Yes.
Honestly, this is one of my messages. If you've listened to the podcast for a while, I so strongly believe, and this is so undervalued, I think, in our space too, but I so strongly believe that if you prioritize people, that you are going to accelerate your business growth by leaps and bounds over what you would if you didn't.
I mean, think about it, so again, I'm the head of human resources and I'm a recruiter. Like the top talent that you bring in, that moves your business forward. So in our world, the top people that we surround ourselves with, my mentor, Sam, she always tells me, surround yourself with people that are stronger than you, that are where you want to be, and people that you look up to as role models. And that's what I strive for. I always strive to be in a room with people who I can learn from, because that's how you grow. That's how you push yourself. And that's how you learn. And I think too, just finding people who are good people, who are positive, who are there to see you succeed and who are not threatened by your success. I think once you find those people, it really helps, and it makes everything better.
Oh my gosh, we're meant to be friends.
We are.
Yeah, this was a huge amen. Like, yes, everyone needs to hear this repeatedly every day,
Totally.
Myself included.
Yeah. And it's hard, right? Like, I think too, like so many of us, like some of my closest friends I've met in person.
Yeah.
Some of them I have not. Some of them I've FaceTime. Some of them we voice message each other. And, I think it's just about finding those people that you can count on and just say, like, I'm having a really hard time with this. What would you do? And I think, there's trial and error. Like there's some people that I've been close with and then I realized they're not my type of people, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is okay.
It's okay. And I think you need to protect your peace more than anything. And, it's something I'm sure you teach your boys. It's something I'm going to teach my daughter, Charlotte. Like, you are not for everyone and everyone is not for you, but you need to just do what you feel most comfortable with and always hold on to that gut feeling.
Oh, that's so true. And it can be hard because it can hurt feelings, and it can also produce some guilt. Like, I've carried a little bit of that too. Like, oh, she was actually a really good person, but I know she wasn't good for me. Like, you just have to let go of some things and search for, like you said earlier, those people who are going to challenge you and make you grow in ways that you never imagined you could grow. That's so important in business and being an entrepreneur.
It really is.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would say contributed to this massive growth and success that you experienced?
I would say the other thing I worked hard on, my friend Christina from Tasting with Tina, she, is one of my friends who has always been so kind, so warm, and so helpful with sharing knowledge. She's had really great success, not only on Instagram, but her blog. And so she told me early on, she was like, Allie, one thing you should do is focus on getting high quality backlinks to your website. And I was like, Christina, what does that even mean? And there's a lot of ways to do that. Reaching out to your local newspapers and publications are always looking to highlight local recipe creators and bloggers. So reaching out there, different publications online, media pitching, getting those high quality backlinks is very important. I also love Facebook roundup groups, but something to be very careful. You want to make sure that you are never link swapping with someone. Google's smarter than that. So really make sure that they're authentic, high value links back to your website. Even just getting one or two will make a big difference in time.
Yeah, I just learned this recently from an SEO expert. He was saying to my mastermind group that it's great to get backlinks, but you have to focus on the quality of the place you're getting the backlink from. That is so important. And we never used to have to think about that. But now it's like, oh, you have to research first. Do they have a high domain? Are they a quality site? And all of that. Yeah, it's really important to think
due diligence, but that's definitely been really helpful. And it's fun too. It's fun getting to network with different publications and people in that way. So I love that. That's been very helpful too.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a good just network of people who support you and who give you great advice, and you probably do the same for them. I love that so much.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate.
Oh, well, that means that you are putting out good things too, because you attract what you put out. I so strongly believe that.
So true.
Yep. Okay, so I know you have this course. I would love for you to talk about this because I think this will really serve and help food bloggers.
Definitely. So I created the 100x workflow because I 100x'd my traffic, which was crazy in 8 months. And truly, I'm going to preface this by saying, it's a no-frills course. This is easy. It's digestible. There's tons of videos of just me walking through. exactly what I do for every single blog post. I'm talking key search, rank IQ, writing the post, optimizing images, alt text, posting, everything in between, my templates, and then what I do after posting that I think is the number one reason why I get the traffic I do. And so it's very easy digestible. It's just my goal with it is just to help people. I'm not someone that is threatened by their success. I want everyone else to be successful. Yes. And that's what gets me excited. So there is a code I actually created for Eat Blog Talk listeners. Okay. And it's just Eat Blog Talk spelt out completely. And that'll give everyone $50 off the course, which brings the price under $150. But it's really helpful. I think the number one piece of feedback I've gotten from people is, oh my God, it's just about consistency and in keeping with what you're doing. And that's what I try to teach in the course is like, use everything I'm teaching you, but you have to use each piece and you have to do each piece over a period of time and just focus. And then I would say the other big piece that people are loving about the course is I have this keyword planner. I go more into it in the course, but I talk about how I strategize my content bucket and how I basically create this process so that every day, so on Saturdays when I do my shoots, I open up my laptop and I see exactly what I can focus on next to shoot and write. And I do not, like, it kind of like eliminates the noise from the outside world and it helps you to just plan what you need to do. And the biggest piece of feedback has been people have found that that's really empowered them. So I love that.
This sounds amazing. I think this could help so many people. So the code is Eat Blog Talk. Where do they go to your site or what is the URL for it?
Great question. So I can send that to you for the notes. And then I'm actually going to be including that. If you follow me on Instagram, it's Seasoned and Salted, spelled out. I'm actually going to be later today adding a highlight to the bottom of my page. And in there, we'll have the link and all the information that people need. But once you follow the link, there's kind of a landing page. It'll tell you a little bit more about it. But it's great. I mean, I think it's really been helping people. The feedback's been just tremendous.
Oh, amazing. I'm so excited for you. Yeah. And I hope you get tons and tons of traction. It sounds super valuable.
Help people.
Yeah. I love that you have that heart for helping people too. And that's really important in our space to have a few of us out there, right?
It is. Yes.
Well, thank you, Allie. This was such a great conversation. I could probably go on talking to you for hours, but I have to let you go about your day. Thank you for just sharing everything that you did. And congratulations on all of your success. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. It's been so great chatting with you.
Same. It was my pleasure. Do you have either a favorite quote or words of inspiration to end on?
I do. So my favorite, and I do not know who said this originally, but comparison is the thief of joy is something that I tell myself all the time. And I think it's the one thing that bloggers need to keep in mind. Comparison is the thief of joy. So just focus on yourself and be happy and stay creative.
Such a great way to end a good chat. We'll put together show notes for you, Allie, if anyone wants to go look at those and to get the link that Allie referred to. You can head to eatblogtalk.com/seasoned and salted. Tell people where your blog is. I know you've mentioned this, but let's just reiterate it all.
Yep. So you can follow me at seasoned, SEASONED, and salted. So all one word, .com. You can also find me. That is my Instagram handle and TikTok, although I'm not as active over there. So Instagram. You can also, if you have any questions about blogging, I'm happy to help people. And my email is Allie@seasonedandsalted.com. And Allie is spelled ALLIE. Happy to talk with any bloggers about anything that I can help them with.
Oh, that's super generous. Thank you, Allie. And thank you so much for listening, food bloggers. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Eat Blog Talk. Don't forget to rate and review Eat Blog Talk on your favorite podcast player. Thank you, and I will see you next time.